So, I'm an English teacher, and when people ask me what I do, I say I teach English. But if we look at it from a different perspective, it's not English that we teach, it's people. And people have different needs while learning English, right? So some of them need it for work, some of them need it for their studies, some of them just need to pass the test or just talk to a friend in a different country. But all in all, it all boils down to one thing: they all need English for communication. And what is communication? If we look at it, one of the definitions would be...
If you click the button on the right.
The other way.
Great, thank you. So one of the definitions would be communication is information exchange, right? So when we talk to someone, we communicate. We exchange information, exchange knowledge, and we either give some information or get some information from our interlocutor. And if this is not happening, then communication is meaningless, so there is no point, right? And this information that we're missing, we call information gap. And as teachers, we arrange our activities in class based on this idea that if we teach our student communicate, there must be some information gap in communication. And what happens is that, keeping that idea in mind, if we give our students, for example, a task to read the text and then answer the questions based on the text. Everyone has read this text, right? We know they all read it, and when they answer the questions, is there any information gap here? Probably not, because they've all read it. However, if we give them different pieces of the same text, or different articles, for example, and have them share them with each other, then there is information gap in there. So they share what they've learned, and another person doesn't know that. And keeping this idea of communication and information gap in mind, we can break our tasks roughly into pedagogic tasks and real-world tasks. So the real-world tasks are those that take our students closest to the real-world situations, right? They help students practice what they're going to say at the doctor's office, right? Or to a bus driver asking to stop at a certain bus stop. Or recently in Cyprus, we had a first aid training delivered to us in English, and I thought, well, if you can speak English, you can get the training and train your first aid skills, which is also another reason to have real-world tasks that will help your students learn things to be able to understand the course. Speaking of pedagogic tasks, they're those that help students learn about meaning, form, pronunciation, understand things, learn grammar, practice vocabulary, and they're really important too. However, in many cases, there is no information gap there. So, for example, when we talk about real-world tasks, they require learners to approximate in class the sorts of behaviors required of them outside the classroom. And, well, so if we take the same example of reading and asking students to answer the questions, based on what they've just read, that's more of a pedagogic task because we check their understanding of the text, the grammar, the vocabulary, and if we ask them to read different stories and share with a partner what they've just read, this is more of a real-world task since this is what they do with their friends, sharing what they've read, what they've watched, and things like that. Some examples of pedagogic tasks could be well, our favorite topic today. True or false, describing pictures, matching sentence halves, answering questions based on the text they read, and many more. We all know these, we all use them. And course books have a lot of pedagogic tasks, and this is great since they help students practice and figure out grammar, vocabulary, practice, meaning, form, pronunciation. However, in my opinion, that would be great to transform some of them into more of a real-world task. Since we still have many of them, why don't we have both? Why don't we have pedagogic tasks with an idea of real-world task? And how can we do that? We could add personalization, real-life situations to it, and of course the information gap into pedagogic tasks. For example, if they are describing a picture, usually this is to practice present continuous or body parts, or well, there are structures and so. Why don't we have them describe their own pictures? Photographs, something they would share with a friend or a colleague and just describe it in their own way. If there is a text that they are answering the questions about, why don't we make it closer to what they need to read for work, for their classes? Because oftentimes we see those texts in the course books that are a little bit different, and this is not what people use and read every day or need in their life. And adding some information gap is a great idea. So if they match sentence halves and create, for example, lexical chunks, why don't we ask them questions, again, maybe a little bit personalized questions based on those chunks, and have them discuss that so we create this information gap for them. Well, if you ask me, should pedagogic tasks be replaced with real-world tasks? What do you guys think? Should they? Well, I wouldn't say they should be replaced because they are still important and they, of course, needed to help students understand the language and their forms and the meaning. However, they could be personalized. They could be reorganized in a more real-world way to help our students reach their communication goals in classes. Well, thank you so much for listening. Do you have any questions?